It's my honor to introduce the chief guest of today's session, Dr. Lata Parameswaran, Professor and Chairperson of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. She has got 22 years of experience and 10 years of software industry experience. She has completed her master's from PSG College of Technology and her PhD from Bayer University and PhD in digital University, and it was funded by the experts. Her areas of research include image processing, information retrieval, image mining, information security, and theoretical computer science. She has published papers in both and international journals and at conferences where she has won several best paper awards also. She has also authored a chapter in a book published by the Idea Group. In addition to teaching and serving as chair of the CIC department, she is currently guiding PhD research scholars in Amrita College, Bharya University, as well as Anna universities. She is in the doctoral committee for many PhD scholars in various universities. She is also a member of Board of Studies at various premier academic institutions in India. She also holds positions in Academic Council in premier institutions. She is in the Faculty Recruitment Board, Faculty Appraisal Committee, Funded Project Review Committee, Recommendations for Infrastructure Setting Up Committee at various institutions. She also works on projects funded by DST. Her special interests include encouraging more and more women into work in engineering, technology, and computing. Ma'am, it's a great honor to have you as a resource person. Thank you, ma'am.
This is the journey of the topic that we're going to discuss. So the terminologies are, most important terminologies are mathematics, which most people think as number crunching or too complex theorem, proof, etc. Not at all. And second is the terminology that we'll be looking at is engineering and science. Most people think this as working with complex circuits, building software, etc. That's also not true. And the thrust areas is the introduction of new things or methods. I would like to give you something like an innovation. Okay, I think innovation is a good example of what is the thrust area. Or innovation is what is the key, is the success. I think I can start with a small story. Okay, the solution is shown on the screen. Normally, I should have hidden that. So somebody wanted to have a chair. Okay, they said that the chair is not comfortable to, the present chairs are not comfortable to sit. I want a chair without any arms and a chair without any legs. And I want the chair to be as flexible as I need it. So, what people thought was we need a chair like that. And then they started the innovation that is the bean bag. I think all of you are aware of the bean bag. Okay, normally I used to hide the term and ask the question, but now that it has come up, the example is a bean bag. The typical example of innovation. It's a typical example of innovation in engineering or science. So we talk about STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Normally, it is called as the STEM education. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. All the four are woven together into a single thread. That is what we mean by the futuristic revolution, or whatever we need in the future. It is controlled only by STEM. So STEM is, as we know, STEM is important. There could be many roots that are present in the root may be very strong in a tree or a plant, but the stem is what is useful to everybody. So that is why we say the STEM education is important. The stem of education is innovation. Okay, so how do we actually do this? We have to skill up and we have to actually embrace new technology and needs. And what is important is education 4.0, intense use of technology in teaching learning process. This is what we have to aim at. How do we use technology in the teaching learning process? Okay, so today's scenario, I think everybody will appreciate if the question says for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam, please climb the tree. What happens? An elephant, if it climbs the tree will break. So it may be easier for a snake to climb a tree or a monkey to climb a tree. What will a penguin do or what will a fox do? So that means our education system is everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. That's what is typically happening now. So Albert Einstein told this so many years ago, but today's scenario is this. And the most important thing is grades. In 1960, the grades are table used to be the parents used to scold the children, but now is a scenario that the parents scold the teachers, saying that the grades are terrible. What happens because from student-centric learning, it has become to an the centric is toward, but is for example, that is sorry to say, it was the teacher-centric learning to a student-centric learning. So whatever the teacher taught was right, and the parents used to scold if there is a F grade by a child. But now the present scenario is that it is student-centric learning, or otherwise called as customized learning. So we have to give them a customized learning. All students will appreciate me for that. So the teachers become much more responsible for this. Okay. So a major question with all of you is that if I say there's a quiz today, once I learn how to use Google, is it not the end of education? Do I really need to know further? It may be it's very sad that Google gives answer for everything. Even what is stupid, it will not scold you. Even if you scold Alexa or the ask the definition of stupidity, it's not going to tell you anything. So you are always these kids, your generation kids are called as Gen AO, what is called as generation always online, which is so dangerous that you cannot learn everything from Google. Okay. So, and the most challenging is education has become a commodity. The more the money you have, the more you are able to learn. Okay, from a higher education institution and so on. That's a very saddest part. Okay, so parents pour in a lot of money to educate the children. So that is the saddest part in India. That is why the NEP, the National Education Policy of 2020, is bringing a lot of changes to this particular education, which has become a commodity. This became a commodity only after the rule of British. Earlier in India, in the earlier system, it was not a commodity at all. Okay, we will touch upon that also. So I talk about evolution of education. Before 1990, teachers would teach the way what they have learned with little regard to students. Okay. So I remember in my days, we cannot ask all questions to teachers. We'll have a lot of reservation, even if we have a simple doubt. Okay. Or even if the doubt is so valid, we'll have a lot of hesitation. But between 1990 and 2005, where you are there, the children who are born in that particular year, this one, it's called as agile teacher model. Teachers are called as coaches or speakers or mentor and would adapt how they teach to meet varying student needs. And post 2005 is the third wave, which is disrupting the existing pedagogies heralded by MOOC. I think all of you will know MOOC, massive open online courses provided by the likes of the Khan Academy. So many other MOOC models are available. And most challenging is post-COVID. Post-2020 is a fourth wave. So education to empower the learner, not just through the style, but also through access. A hard lesson that we learned through COVID. Otherwise, I think I would have traveled to your college. All of you would have traveled from your home to college today. Okay, after so many, we'll be tired to listen to the talk. But now we are able to listen to the talk with all the, without having strain to travel and so on. Right from my home, I send it, and right from your home, you can receive it. So people thought that it is not possible, but actually, to speak, India was the one to adapt fastly to this fourth wave. That is the post-COVID way of teaching. I understand in many other countries, teaching has not happened at all through this year. And most countries would like to call it this as a blank year. That means an year without education. But India did not suffer that, because with all the struggles that we have, however, we have managed to conduct the classes. Okay, however, we have managed to go into online. I think all of you will appreciate and agree to it. So the challenges in Indian education system presently are diversity in terms of languages, culture, and acceptability of all religions. That's the biggest challenge that we have, because we call it as unity in diversity. So I know we speak different languages, we are from different culture, and we are all from different spiritual practices that are there. That is one thing that is very important. Second is expenditure on education. So I think I told you, India is one of the countries where education is much more costlier. Education, I mean to say, up to the college education. Higher education depends on country to country. Okay, most countries provide what we call as the scholarship and so on, which is yet to open up in at an undergrad level or at an BSc level or a BTech level in India. And gross enrollment pattern is another challenge that we have. That is why the NEP has come, National Education Policy, to increase the enrollment pattern. That is, we know that there are a lot of dropouts. So you look at any statistics in any state, there will be 10 lakh students who will be writing 10th standard. Whereas when it comes to 12th standard, there'll be only 7 lakh students or 5 lakh students who will be taking up. What happens to those 2 to 3 lakhs? Okay, not that everybody gets into other education. Then when it comes to college education, so out of the 5 lakhs, okay, only there are 2.5 to 3 lakhs people who enroll in a higher education. That is a college education. What happened to the remaining 3 to 4 lakhs? So the gross enrollment pattern has been a bigger challenge in India. Whereas countries like China, that is the biggest advantage. That is, they have almost an 85 to 90% enrollment pattern throughout their school to higher education. Okay. Then next is capacity utilization. What is this capacity utilization? There are so much of infrastructure that is available. Library, for one example. Okay, so are we using all the facilities? Okay, I'll have to differentiate between capacity and infrastructure. Capacity, let me tell you, that is, I can talk even in terms of manpower. There are so many teachers who are available in schools. Are we actually efficiently using all of them? Some of them will be towards administration, so many other tasks that they are trying to or struggling to do. So capacity utilization is utilizing both the student, the learner and the teacher in their fullest or to their entire capacity that they have. That is one thing. So some students will be good in science, but what happens? They may not have the proper money to take up higher education in science. They end up in commerce. Some of them will be good in engineering, okay, but they get into medicine due to so many other things that are present. So are we utilizing the capacity of the learner and the teacher fully is a bigger question. It's a challenge. And then the infrastructure facilities that are present, example, library. How often do we go to library? How often do we get to use all the resources that are present in our campuses? Student teacher ratio. Though AICTE, UGC, everybody says that the ratio should be 1:15, we face challenges, not because we cannot recruit. We don't have qualified teachers, okay, in order to do this. That is a bigger ratio, bigger challenge that we have. The next bigger challenge that we have is on the accreditation and branding in order to enforce or get the quality standards. I think you all know NAC is one accreditation body. So many accreditation bodies. So we need to get accredited, and branding becomes very, very important in order to enforce quality. Why accreditation? Only if I say NAC, oh, okay, you're NAC accredited. That means the student has some quality that they have learned. So it is easier to consider them for a higher education or for a job. So only the institution is accredited. Later, students will be actually only students from those institutions will be recruited by the recruiters, be it government or private organizations. Accreditation becomes very, very important. It's mandatory, not important, it's mandatory. I think right from 2022, no institution which is not accredited will be able to run any programs, okay, as per the new education policy. And another challenge is students studying abroad. Are they comparable with students in India? Yes, definitely. I can say from my experience, every student who is studying in India are comparable with student in any other university. Only thing is that the infrastructure may differ, the capacity utilization may differ, but that's another challenge that we have to actually address. Okay, I'm just setting the base before we get on to mathematics. So the purpose of education is in 1.0, it was under parents' care, And in 2.0, it was the capability was tested. And in 3.0, we call it as competitive. Parents think that it is competitive. My son or my daughter is studying here and getting placed there. What is your son or daughter doing? So the problem, I mean, the challenge that the educators have is in 1.0, it was imposing. In 2.0 was imprint, because they say this is what you should study and you study. And 3.0, what we are now is inspire the students to study. So inspiration has to be given by the educators. Competitiveness is one thing that is present, providing among parents and the society. Earlier, it was driven by religion. Second, it was driven by government. Here, it is aiming at advantage. So now we are in an era where we have to face the competitive world and we need inspired students, and we have been aiming for the biggest advantage. So Make in India, Skill India, all those things are all typical examples of this aiming for advantage. So education versions 1.2, as I told, I will deliver content at my pace and will learn, and you will learn if you can. And education 2.0, I will adjust how and what I teach so that it gives you the best chance for success. We learned in education 2.0, whereas you are learning in education 3.0. I'll provide you with the resources, content you need, and so you can learn what you need in the way that works for you, whenever and wherever you are. I will then make myself available to help you apply that learning in a useful manner. That is how education version has changed. So the 8 important characteristics are meaning, digital universe. I'm not going to talk much detail. Details are available in the slide, which I will share. Co-constructivism and fully infused in society. So schools are located everywhere. Earlier, people have to travel so long to reach the schools or colleges. Expectation, infrastructure, location anywhere, learning for parents. They too view schools as a place for them to learn. Okay. So location anywhere, teachers are everybody and everywhere. So everywhere there is now, you can learn even without teachers from the MOOC. Okay, so there are teachers everywhere and there are teachers, everybody is a teacher now. So where are we now? Is it education 3.2? What will be next? Is there a 4.0? How to embrace technology and how do we enhance ourselves? The simple trick is to learn to tame the tiger. I remember my professor told me long back, 30 years back, that he told today's education is just like learning to tame the tiger. That means you have a tiger in front of you. You have to learn to tame the tiger. So if you don't know to tame the tiger will eat you up. So that means you will be lost and you will be obsolete. Okay, you will not be useful to the society. So learn to tame the tiger. That means embrace the technology and move ahead to learn something new every day. So at the end of the day, you will have to see what new thing did I learn in the technology on that day. Okay, that's the simple trick to success. So the next evolution is education 4.0. That is smart education. Simply saying smart education. That is the vision of education 4.0 is to respond to the new needs of industry 4.0 with the fourth industrial revolution, where man and machine align to new possibilities, and to harness the potential of digital technologies, personalized data, open source content, and so on, and to establish a blueprint for the future of learning. So lifelong learning, from childhood schooling to lifelong learning in the workplace to learning to play a better role in the society. That is the vision of education 4.0, or otherwise the National Education Policy 2020. So National Education Policy 2019 or 2020 envisions an India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainability into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society, providing high quality education to all. The last line is what is very, very important. High quality education to all is what we are actually aiming at. So how do we do that? The components are school education. I think if you read the newspapers, you can see how the school education is going to change from 2021. Okay, that's the model is going to change. Higher education, where you are in, teacher education, where we are in, professional education, vocational education will be a part of every education, right from school. See, we used to tell, say very jokingly that we start using pencils right from our kindergarten, and till today. But none of us know how to manufacture a pencil. That means there is a vocational education. So you will be learning all that right from school. There'll be a vocational education, which will be a part of the NEP. And then National Research Foundation, because research is what is very important. Without research, nothing. Google Meet is a research. Okay, if that research has not happened, we cannot meet today at all. Then technology in education, adult education, promotion of Indian languages. That's also very important. How do we promote or learn in Indian languages? Financing education, so which is very actually important need of the day. And Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, that means Shiksha means education. Just have a ministry or a commission for this education. Okay, that's very important. A committee for this education. So the NEP higher education, where you are in and we are in, the new architecture, liberal education. So liberal education means you should be able to learn both art, science, everything together in your this one. You cannot say I am not a student of science, so or I am not an art student. Why should I learn about drama skills? Okay, I think already you have something called as vocabulary. I mean, I don't know. You call it in different terminologies. So every student should learn art, science. So that is one thing is liberal education. Governance should be made simple and regulation should reach everybody. There should be a common regulation for everybody. And the teacher education, teacher preparation programs will be rigorous and will take place in vibrant multidisciplinary higher education institutions. So we will call them as multidisciplinary. That is what I'm going to talk about also. And the 4-year integrated space-specific, subject-specific Bachelor of Education offered at multidisciplinary institutions would be the predominant way of becoming a teacher. So all teacher education, so for example, you will have a 4-year integrated degree. All degrees will become 4-year integrated. So all your 3-year degree will vanish and 4-year degree will become mandatory in order to get a graduation. But there will be stages. At the end of first year, if you want to exit, you can exit with a rather certificate that you have studied these courses. If you want to exit at the second year and then move to some other branch, you can move. You will get a diploma. So at the third year, you will also get another diploma saying that these are the courses you studied and you can move. For example, first 2 years, you can study BSc Computer Mathematics and third and fourth year, you can study BSc Computer Science. Or first 2 years, you can do a BSc Physics and third and fourth year, you can do a BSc Mathematics or Chemistry. So substandard and dysfunctional teacher education institutions will be shut down. I think teachers will know that many of the teacher education institutions have been shut down, including the MPhil program, okay, which had a lot of issues in the country. So what are the components of this NEP or Education 4.0? See, Education 4.0 and NEP are one and the same. Education 4.0 is a common term globally used, and NEP is the term used in India. National Education Policy. Both of them have the same objectives. So you need future skills. Okay, you want 100-year life. So what do we do for a 100-year life? So that's bigger thing. Okay, so millennial mindset. So I know millennial mindset is quick learning and fast learning with less time. Digital networks and devices, personal data, that becomes much more challenging. How secure is my personal data? And collaboration platform, I don't have to speak about. We are now already using a Google, Meet. That's a collaboration platform. Talent investment rather than investing on money. Okay, shared content and resources, social progress. Okay, these are some of the components. And what is Education 4.0 is anytime, anywhere, personalized education, flexible delivery, peers and mentors. So you will have peers, and peers will be the mentors. Okay, your friends will be the mentor, and they'll help you to actually skill yourself. Instead of asking why, where, you'll be asking why, where, and not what and how. Okay, that's very important. And practical application to everything. That's what we are going to see also. Modular and projects, student ownership than the teacher ownership. Teachers will not own anything. Okay, so it is your pace that you will have to learn and skill yourself. So it is now a student-centric learning than a teacher-centric learning. So and you are evaluated and not examined. No more we call it as examination. We call it as evaluation. You do a self-evaluation, not how much you have studied. Okay. So the solution is Industry 4.0, Curriculum 4.0, Faculty 4.0, and Parenting 4.0. That is the solution to Education 4.0. Okay, this is very important. According to an analysis, 750 occupations listed by McKinsey Global Institute, okay, nearly 50% of the job activities are highly susceptible to automation. That's an alarming situation for the job seekers and educators alike. So 50% of the jobs that are 51% of the jobs that are presently there are susceptible to automation. That means we need to gear up. Okay, we know very well already it has started. We don't require a pen and a paper to attend the class. We need only a laptop or a digital device to connect to the class. So these job activities span across industries and can make several skills redundant in the coming future. So many other skills will become redundant. So technology, embracing technology and adapting to technology becomes much more important. So the situation could eventually lead to mass employment if not addressed on time. That is why the need of the hour is to skill up. So you have to skill up, the teachers have to skill up, everybody has to, parents have to skill up, everybody has to skill up. So curriculum 4.0, I'm not going to talk about faculty 4.0, that they will take care. Okay. So parenting 4.0, see just so many challenges they have. Okay. They have to inspire you. Underemployment is a problem. Your restlessness is a problem. Gadgets is a problem. So they'll have to address all these things with you. So it's very, very important that you have to actually, the parents have to gear up in order to address this. Okay. So connecting to our topic for the day, that was only the actually our base. So connecting to the topic for the day, mathematics in thrust areas. Okay, mathematics in thrust areas or whatever be that. I just call it as mathematics and thrust areas. So what are the thrust areas? What should we prepare to do? What should we do to prepare our future generations? That is one guideline given by AICT and UGC on thrust areas. One is artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, robotics, quantum computing, data sciences, and cybersecurity. These are the 7 major areas where we can directly apply mathematics and skill ourselves. So I'm going to talk only about this today. Okay, so mathematics and science or engineering are the twins. Mathematics, I call it as mother of all science. So engineering mathematics is the art of applying mathematics to complex real world problems and combining mathematical theory and practical engineering and scientific computing to address various technological challenges. One simple challenge will be designing next generation Formula 1 cars. Only mathematics can do. Okay, what is the distance, speed? I think the basic formula of distance and speed helps here. Okay, rotation, how many rotations per minute, RPM, what should be the rate of change of the momentum? When can they change the gear? All this is a mathematical model that we'll have to give. Working at the cutting edge of robotics. Robotics, it's very important. Mathematical theory is very important, because if you talk about robotics, what is the path that the robot should take? Okay, how do they identify obstacles? So everything has a model. Running a business, creating autonomous vehicle. So if you want to run a business which can create autonomous vehicle, you need mathematics. Okay, so developing innovative indices for global financial institution, I know. So how does the NSE work, the stock market works? It's all mathematics. So that's very interesting to see. So I will skip this electrical and electronics. I'll directly come to the thrust areas. So mathematics and computer science are otherwise called as the twins. That is the thrust areas. So mathematics and computer science coexist, inseparable twins with equal or more, even more in partnership. I can say mathematics, without mathematics, computer science cannot exist. So if you have a friend in computer science, you can challenge them very well that they cannot leave mathematics and learn computer science at all. Okay. So I am now a computer science person only because I have a strong background in mathematics. Mathematical models and algebra are involved and equally interconnected in handling all database queries of complex algorithmic and working on website. The website design is completely mathematics. Okay, machine learning and artificial intelligence computer science programmers need statistics, calculus, and probability. The core mathematical topics such as discrete mathematics, including set theory, graph theory, all this algebra, number theory is the basic foundation for programming in computer science. And cryptography is the logical based, and number theory has numerous applications in cryptography. So without number theory, we cannot work in cryptography. So Boolean algebra and relational algebra is used very much in logic gates, that is the design of the computer hardware itself. The computer hardware is completely the logic gates, nothing else. I think you would have studied about Boolean algebra and relational algebra. Okay, that is why everybody calls as mathematics and computer science as the twins. So mathematics is the language which God has written the universe, Galileo says. Okay, and so that is very important, and that's true also. AI is not rocket science, artificial intelligence, it is just mathematics. So the ideas behind thinking machines and possibility to mimic human behavior is done only with mathematics. Okay, artificial intelligence and mathematics are the two branches of the same tree. So the primary purpose of AI is to create acceptable human models, and these models are actually are from various branches of mathematics. So I'll be majorly touching upon this AI and mathematics, how they are twinned together. So AI problems constitute on two general categories: search problem and representation problem. So what we want to do, artificial intelligence problems are categorized into search problem and representation. Following them are interconnected models like tools and models and tools like rules, frames, and so on. All these are from mathematics. Consider a self-driving car. So their goal is to recognize objects and people in videos, uses maximization procedure and backpropagation. So, maximization is just used here in order to identify objects. So mathematics helps to solve challenging, deep abstract problems by using traditional methods and techniques known for hundreds of years. What is it? The techniques which are already proven is what is being used. Simple example, I work in image processing. How do I work in image processing? An image is a matrix, that's all. I don't have to write algorithms to add two images or multiply two images and so on, because matrices will take care of it. So I just have to depend only on the matrix algebra. So the basis is mathematics, or the foundation is mathematics. So linear algebra, what I spoke just now, abstract data and models with concepts of scalars, vectors, tensors, matrices, sets and sequences. This is one fundamental in artificial intelligence. The second fundamental in artificial intelligence is vectors. AI scientists use different techniques of vectors to solve problems of regression, clustering, speech recognition, and machine translation. The concepts are also used to store internal representation of AI models in like linear classifiers and deep learning networks. They use the same concept here throughout in order to go for higher level of applications. So matrix theory, as I was mentioning, a neural network has been produced by generating the connections between neurons to match the way of reasoning of a human brain. So how a human brain can reason, the same way it is represented, a neuron is represented mathematically. So the concept of matrix is used in the study of neural networks. So we assume that this is a cell body and X naught is the axon from the neuron. So we get a synapse. So we get a dendrite. That means we get a message to the cell that is there. And then with the other, the activation that is happening, we decide on the output axon. That is the output action that we want to perform. Okay, it is simply a matrix theory. So eigenvectors and eigenvalues. So the science of search engine. So you use a lot of search engine. Simple search engine. Yeah? Yeah? Yes, ma'am?
Ma'am, screen is not visible.
It's not
Screen is not visible? Just a minute, I will share once again.
But now it's okay, ma'am. Hello?
Yeah, is it visible? Yeah?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes,
Am
ma'am.
I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is it presenting now? Oh, I don't see it in my
Yes,
screen.
ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Is it now presenting? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's
Ma'am, it's
good.
visible, ma'am.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. So I'll take another 10 to 15 minutes to complete the session. Okay. So AI and mathematics are the most important concepts are the eigenvalues and eigenvectors that is used in all search engine. Okay, you would have seen page rank. So in Google, if you go to Google and type something, so you want your page to come on top. Okay, so there's something called as ranking that's totally based on the eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Okay, page rank is calculated based on eigenvalues and eigenvectors. So page rank, which is the very groundwork of Google as a company, is based on mathematical perspective. That is the rank of the page is computed by sum of all q belonging to BP. So RQ by the number of queries that are present. So if more people Google about the page comes on top. Google about the page appears on the top of the Google list. So PageRank is the algorithm originally formulated by Larry Page and Sergey Brin in their research paper, The Anatomy of Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine, Applications of Basic Concepts of Principal, Eigenvectors, and Eigenvalues. So now you can think that without mathematics, computer science cannot survive, or none of the other branches can survive. So calculus is very much used in biomedical sciences to simulate the complex biological process of the human health and diseases with high fidelities. So example, in silico modeling, an application of AI approaches in biomedicine is fully automated that does not require human samples or crude animal tests or clinical trials or laboratory equipment. In fact, to say all the vaccines that are now produced uses the Covaxin, Covishield, and so on. They have used the silico modeling method in order to test the samples again, without using a human sample. The first round of tests that they have. So a differential mathematical equation is used to model, to test new mechanistic hypotheses and evaluate the novel therapeutic targets. So it is the most inexpensive and convenient way to study human physiology, drug responses and diseases way more accurately by manipulating the mathematical model. So the last one is very much true in what we have done in Covishield, Covaxin, or the Pfizer vaccine that is available in the rest of the countries. All them have widely used mathematics in order to test it. Okay, so it is very much currently used now. The mathematical models have been currently used in silico modeling. That's the biomedicine we call. So, and probability, I think all of you would have studied probability to analyze the frequency of happening of an event. The concepts of probability are used and is used to decide the chance of occurrence of an event. Is it going to rain? Prediction, all the prediction that is done. Okay, the satellite prediction, the weather prediction, all of them use probability. And let's consider a robot. A robot can move only forward for a certain number of seconds, but not a certain distance. Again, this is decided based on the probability theory. And to make the robot go forward, scientists use mathematics in its programming. Discrete random variable, continuous random variable, Bayes formula, and normalization are some of the concepts used in robotics, navigation, and locomotion, along with the concepts of linear algebra. Okay. And then AI and mathematics. AI scientists believe that what people think about AI is that it's all magic, but it isn't magic, it is mathematics that creates the magic behind all the inventions. So mathematics can enhance analytical thinking, which is very vital in AI, artificial intelligence. And the second area of research and interest is IoT. Okay, Internet of Things. So the important concepts I'll just touch upon, because anyhow the slides will be available with your madam and anybody is interested can take it from her. So fuzzy theory, I don't know if you have studied fuzzy theory in your undergraduation level. If there are MSc students, definitely, I think they would have studied fuzzy theory, or otherwise I request you to include fuzzy theory as an elective, at least in both BSc and MSc levels. And at MSc level, this should be a core subject. And then game theory is what is very important. I remember studying game theory in my BSc. So game theory is what is very important in IoT. Okay. So we can use game theory to select the best available approaches to mitigate any loss or increase income in any game, war, or competitive enterprise. I think you know that the same approach to game theory can be used to automate network function for delivery and power consumption in IoT. So in IoT is Internet of Things. So what are all the devices? Which device I can respond to? To which device can I connect? So that is based on the game theory. Okay. So graph theory. So I think you would have studied graph theory. We are forming relationship between objects and so on. So IoT uses graph theory, and even image processing uses graph theory to represent the network. Queuing theory is to contact messages. Queuing theory is very simple. That is the same concept used in WhatsApp also. You send a lot of messages. How will the messages go? They are stored in a queue, and based on the priority or based on the time, okay, based on the algorithm that is stored in that particular application, the messages are delivered. And then reliability theory. So it is used to find defects in many devices. Okay, so it enhances the quality of service and data management. So reliability theory, that is several mathematicians have used it to find the reliability of IoT. Simulation. So various event simulations appear for ADL. So we perform simulation. So best example is you simulate for example, the Covishield and the Covaxin vaccines they have simulated on a number of people to find and study the efficacy of the medicine. So, and mathematics for blockchain. I think you would have heard of blockchain from your friends, or even you would have tried. It's based on number theory and cryptography. So Bitcoins, I think everybody knows, otherwise called as electronic currency, or basic examples of Bitchain technology. So an example, block of certificates, each block contains a reference to the previous block. So you create a block like this and go on rebuilding it. So that is a blockchain, which is totally based on the mathematical concepts of number theory, okay, which is the basis for cryptography. And robotics, geometry. So very important. How big are these wheels? So you need to decide the size of the wheel. So why is it the size of the wheel in scooty smaller than the size of the wheel in a bike? That's mathematics based on the weight, based on the friction. So you have certain parameters to decide on all this. So that is the geometry and measurement. If you're going to build a robot, you need to know how big your robot should be in order to perform a task. So if you want to pick up a basketball, you need to measure the ball. So your hand should be big enough. So the robot should be big enough to hold, the hands of the robot should be big enough to hold the ball in it. This is measurement in action. So statistics, now you have built a robot. Now you should test how well it performs. Maybe your robot moves at a certain speed and you want to see how fast it goes. So after a couple of trials, you have to say you have some data, but now what to do with it? This is where understanding of statistics comes. What is the average speed? After 10 trials, what is the average speed? Okay, what is the maximum speed? What is the minimum speed? What is the standard deviation? Is the standard deviation too high? If the standard deviation is too high, that means the robot is not performing properly. The robot is performing ad hoc at different trials. So if the standard deviation is less, that means the robot behaves in a similar manner during all the trials. Then algebra. So algebra is essential both in basic and more advanced robot making. So algebraic thinking involves finding patterns and relationship. How do so in Coimbatore, I think there is one robo restaurant. So the robotic restaurant, algebra is very important. They have to find between patterns because all tables will look similar. How will the robot identify between table 1 and table 2 and so on? That's algebra. Okay. So, and then quantum computing. So everybody would have heard of this. So linear algebra and number theory are the foundation, projective geometry to build circuits, approximations to build algorithms, and Fourier transform to more understand and model signals in a quantum computing. And mathematics in data science. So you will have so many studies say, I want to do data science. Don't worry, you're already a data scientist. If you know all this, if you have studied all this properly in mathematics, you can directly get into data science. Calculus used in machine learning, okay, to formulate the functions and to train algorithms And then probability is used in data science to analyze or visualize data. And linear algebra is used to understand how algorithms work. So if you know all this, you can proudly call yourself to be a data scientist. So, and cyber security, some everywhere now cyber attacks, cyber security becomes very important. So Boolean algebra. So some computers use a branch of mathematics known as Boolean algebra. So the entire they weren't aware, they weren't any computers during the days of George Boole, its inventor. So George Boole is a mathematician. Okay, so he invented the Boolean algebra. So this is the use of mathematics. This is used in constructing the hardware, the entire hardware of the computer. In complex number, it is worth delving deep into linear algebra, into algebra to get this topic and have the privilege of using this powerful little tool. So complex numbers, though it is a smaller tool, we have a lot of Fourier signals are represented only as a complex number. Fourier signal is a complex number. So cryptography, the probability accounts for most massive use of mathematics. So you know when your bank or email program gives you an option to have something encrypted. So you know that it always says your WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted. So that's done only using cryptography, which is the basis of number theory. So in 3D printing and design, linear algebra, trigonometry, geometry, mathematical transforms, 2D to 3D transformation, projection geometry and topology are the fields of study. Okay, virtual reality and augmented reality. I think you just think only as gaming. No, now virtual reality and augmented reality are available in medical science also. So the key difference is AR lets the user experience the real world, whereas VR gives you move from the real world and create an artificial or a virtual world. So analytical geometry and 3D geometry are the important things that are there. Trigonometry and matrices is the basics, and nonlinear optimization, fixed point, and spherical harmonics is the basic. So mathematics in our daily life. So patterns is mathematics, measurement is mathematics, estimation. So you would have seen how much is the crowd in the match today. So estimate it. Problem solving, okay, is mathematics. Weather is probability. Okay, so fractions. Okay, that is so how fractions is how much can I serve in a particular plate. Okay, so that is also mathematics. So you have to do fraction. So time, okay, that's mathematics. Symmetry, okay, how big, see the symmetry in this particular African elephant, that's mathematics. Money is mathematics, geometry is mathematics. So mathematics is in our daily life. So the summary is mathematics is everywhere, and you as a mathematician has lot of responsibility to take it to the next, your next field of interest